Good morning, everyone. Chris Durrell here, DFSR.com, Rotopros.com, and my own Patreon, patreon.com/Jagerbombs. How is everyone doing today? We've got would be the fourth and fifth races of the Dover weekend here. Really busy weekend. I missed both of yesterday's races except for maybe the final few laps of the Cup race. Took wife and one of my kids down to a farmer's market down in Big Beaver, Saskatchewan. Population, I'm going to go ahead and guess about 21, 18 to 21, somewhere in there. Bought this awesome shirt, Ost's General Store. They don't have it. You don't need it. No, they're not a sponsor. They just kick ass. They literally do have everything pretty much that you need. So the slogan definitely is right. So just going to wait for a few more people to jump in here. Going to talk about the race a little bit. So I'm just pretty much going off stats, the final few laps of the Cup race for both races. So this is the first week since the return. We've had a lot of doubleheader races. This is the first weekend where we actually get doubleheaders for two series. So it was absolutely insane last night when I did get home, updating all the other sheets. But then I had to update databases for Xfinity and Cup to turn it over and put two new sheets out for Cup and Xfinity. It's a lot of extra work on these weekends, but definitely like it. Personally, when it comes to these second races, I usually go a little bit lighter just because the chalk really stands out a little bit more just because they invert those top 20. They started having those performance stats, which kind of set the rest of the field outside of that invert. So that kind of helps a little bit in terms of maybe trying to find some value, but overall, it's pretty tough. And I mean, you'll see that when you look at my picks on the sheet today. There's a lot of green up top in terms of core plays. So it's going to be, kind of decision time for everyone today. And that's kind of why I'm here. A little bit of coffee here. Was up about 6 a.m. this morning, so it's only cup of coffee number 2. So how's everyone doing? Type in chat here. Let me know how you're doing, who you're picking for today, how yesterday went for you. I know I've seen some screenshots on Twitter as well as in my Patreon Slack chat. Things were awesome for NASCAR yesterday for most of you. I had, who was it? Bowman let me down. I kind of went a little bit overweight on Bowman yesterday. A little bit of a mistake there. Joe Gibbs ended up going 1, 2, 3. Hamlin beat Truex at the end. So Hamlin's been just red hot fire. And then Kyle Busch finishing third. So it was nice to see Joe Gibbs. They were 1, 2, 3. Kyle Busch up there again. He didn't really contend for the win from what I've seen. We're moving kind of on today. Like I said, I'm going to be playing a little bit lighter. Before we get into that, I want to tell you a little bit about my Patreon for anyone that's new. Now that we've got some people in the chat here, so I'm just going to jump into that. So what I do is I pretty much generate cheat sheets, statistics, trends, put that into a little bit of a model, and I cover multiple sports. So I work for DFSR.com, so I do articles over there pretty much for every sport, including NASCAR. All my sheets are available there. Rotopros.com, I work there as well. Cover all sports. All my cheat sheets are available there as well. You can also head over to patreon.com if you're just looking for just my sheets, maybe even just for a specific sport. Looking to maybe save some money there a little bit. Go over to patreon.com/Jagerbombs, $5 per sport. And I cover NHL. Playoffs are going right now. League of Legends should be coming back for the fall again. They're just kind of wrapping up their playoffs. PGA, I cover full tournament as well as rounds 1 through 4 showdown, as well as a bunch of other sheets I put together just with stats and stuff. I have a huge database for PGA and NASCAR, so putting together some of these stats on a week-to-week basis with the changing, for NASCAR, it'd be the changing tracks. For PGA, it's the changing courses, changing fields every single week. So a lot of information there. Soccer, the MLS has kind of been a disappointment here since it came back here again after their opening tournament, return to play tournament. The contests are just really, really small. So we're kind of waiting for that to jump up again. But once EPL comes back, that's kind of going to be the main focus for soccer. UFC weekly, NBA playoffs are going on right now. Make sure to check that out. We've got starting lineups on there as well as picks at each position, that sort of thing. Baseball package, tons of statistics. Love baseball because there is tons of statistics. I am a stat head, in case you maybe didn't know. If you're new to the show, hear me talking about stats. NFL package, that's about 3 to 4 weeks away here. NASCAR, cover all 3 series, including the new Matrix. Got a lot more coming down the line. I know the season's kind of getting close to an end here, but what I've been trying to do with my Patreon, just because I do so many sports, is trying to add a little bit at a time. Every sport sees a tiny little change here or there, pretty much every single day or every week for the weekly sports. So you may not see them on a daily basis, but I am working in the background trying to add more and more stuff to all of the sheets, not just focus on one. So I kind of spread that out. And then if you want access to all those sports, it's just $10. So that's about a $45 value for just $10. So after going through that, I got some more people in here. We're going to just jump into the race here, look at some statistics from yesterday, some stuff like that. Yeah, yesterday was a disaster, all because of Bowman for me. It just didn't work out. I had Truex. That was pretty good. Truex was definitely on my radar. I didn't have Austin Dillon. I kind of went away from him at the end. Just overall, it was a bad Cup day. I had a good day in terms of prize picks for the Xfinity race, and I no, I didn't end up getting to play the Cup race. So, going to talk about that a little bit, some picks. But we're going to talk Xfinity here first. Geyer ended up taking up the win because we got about an hour and a half until Xfinity lock here as well. So, if you got questions for Xfinity, throw that out as well. Cindric finished second, give him a kind of a run for his money. So again, same thing today. I think it was the top 15 that inverted, so it's going to be a little bit tough there as well. I do have the picks filled out on both the Xfinity and Cup sheets for some of my favorites. So for Xfinity sheet first, I don't see how you can't go back to Cindric. He looked like possibly he had a little bit better car than Allgaier, so I think Cindric can probably get up there and win again. If not, he's going to be up there in the top 2. Allgaier, I like, obviously. I mean, just with the invert, makes a lot of sense. I'm going to talk about him with prize picks, how I'm probably going to be fading him and going under just because prize picks today is looking for a top 2 finish if you're betting the over on him. I know he's done that in 3 straight and 5 of his last 6 here at this track, which is pretty insane. The form hasn't been there, so he ended up taking that form, throwing it in the garbage yesterday, winning the race. I just don't see him as a guy that's been consistent enough to go ahead and win back-to-back races or kind of finish that top 2. So that's kind of going to be one of my prize picks plays today. Noah Gragson makes sense again. Going down the list, looking at maybe some guys that are not starting, don't have that exact place differentials. Those guys that finished at the top and are going to be finishing kind of at the back end of that top 15. Brandon Jones, 16th, so he'll be starting 16th today. I like that price at 9,500, especially, I mean, if you're going with one of the top guys and you want to go Brandon Jones with either Cindric or Allgaier or Gragson. Even Briscoe. Briscoe's more of a GPP play for me. I think Cindric is going to be a little bit better, and he's cheaper. So that's kind of what I'm looking at there. Let's keep going down a little bit. Haley, I like as a pivot off of Brandon Jones. He's starting a little bit more forward. I believe he's an 8th today. He finished 8th yesterday. He was 4th last year at this track. So I see him as a top 5 upside guy. Maybe a little bit lower owned than Jones just because of that place differential difference. Myatt Snyder finished 17th yesterday. He is starting 17th again, so I actually don't mind that either. You're kind of looking at about 40 points from Snyder, and I think the upside is there. So he's more of a GPP play starting 17th because even if he starts or if he kind of needs to finish better, about 5 to 8 spots better than he did yesterday to really hit on upside for you. So that's going to be GPP. Michael Annett starting 7th. He's starting in the top 10, but he's just a consistent driver in this series. I'm just going to go look at some of his history here real quick. Yeah, he's finished 12th, 15th, 11th, and 14th. Or sorry, I have to scroll over a little bit. So top 10s in 3 straight, 9th yesterday, 6th, 10th, 12th, 15th, 11th, 14th. Just very consistent at that track. There's not much place differential upside. There's a lot of downside, with the risk, because if he does finish outside the top 15, he's definitely not paying it off. But with his consistency and that price tag under 8K and this weird slate combined, I think Annett has to be in your player pool. Again, he is 6th in my model here. Couple value plays I'm not super high on by any means is Timmy Hill and Stephen Parsons. Sorry. Ryan Sieg would be like super GPP because he's starting way up front. He'd have to pretty much get up and lead a bunch of laps. Matt Mills I really like at 5,900. if you're going with that stars and scrubs build. I think you can kind of go two different ways today. It's going to be a lot easier to build that balanced lineup just because there isn't a whole bunch of values that I'm really going to take a risk with here. Probably only going to play a single entry lineup for Xfinity today. It's kind of the way I'm looking at it. Um, Looking at yesterday's race specifically in terms of average running position, kind of looking at that compared to where guys finished to maybe look for some upside. Brandon Jones stands out for sure. He finished 16th. Average running position yesterday was 8th and race high. He was up in the top 3 there for a while. I don't really look at the high position just because there could be some green flag stops. I didn't see the race, like I said, so looking at just the data, I'd rather have some average position rather than highs and lows just because of pit stops. I mean, that's where that's going to tally in. So seeing that he's 8 spots better in terms of average run to where he finished, I definitely like that. Just kind of going down the list here, looking at the results from yesterday. Jesse Little finished 23rd, was an average run of 18th, so that's a little bit there. But going and looking at Little down here, 4,800, starting 20th, finished 23rd yesterday, only 4,800. So I guess we're only looking for about 25 points. We can probably get away with that. That's a 20th place finish. That's really pushing it for Little's upside. So even at 5K, I find that very hard to get in because if he finishes kind of in that 25th, even at 22nd, that's only 20 points. That is like 4x. I mean, if it helps you get these top guys and they dominate, I think we could possibly think about going that way. That would be maybe the only guy I would punt with. Kind of like the Quinn Houff situation in the Cup Series yesterday. If you're looking to go superstars and scrubs, didn't really work. He only finished with like 13 points, so that was kind of a fail there. And then in terms of prize picks for this race today, I talked about Justin Allgaier. I'm going on the under, so he needs to finish. For me to win on the under, he needs to finish 3rd or worse. I do like that just because of the odds. I mean, not looking at track history, but more of the form this year. So it's a little risky there, but there's only 8 picks for prize picks on the Xfinity race today. The other one that I like is Brandon Jones over. He's at 32.5, which is, I believe, 9th or better. Yeah, 9th place or better is what we need from Brandon Jones. He had an average running position better than that yesterday. I think he gets it done today. So that's kind of my 2 play. With the risk involved in that, I would probably instead of just going like a straight under on Allgaier, over on Brandon Jones and doing a power play, which you need to get both right and you get paid 3x, I would probably, just because of the risk with Allgaier, possibly go the flex play and then just up my bet a little bit. So the flex play, if you get both picks right, you're only getting 2x instead of 3x. But if you get 1 out of 2 wrong, you're still going to get half your money back. You still get 0.5x return there. So it just gives you a little insurance, on risky plays like this, being that, you still want to play. So that's the way I'm looking at prize picks for the Xfinity race. Just going to go over some questions here, see if anyone had anything. Oh, yeah, Kurt Busch, Liz. Yeah, I missed that. He was the other one. So Kurt Busch and Bowman, those Chevys really crushed me yesterday. Back on Kurt Busch today, though. We're going to jump into the do you think Tom Brady will wear his Ugg boots? Yeah, I really don't know. You're not the top 4, you're not leading anything. Yeah, S. Calder on there, stars and scrubs line seem to be the only way to go. It's true, especially with these where there's more laps and you need those dominators. Those dominators are coming from those top guys, especially in the Xfinity series when you got Cindric and Briscoe at the top, and they've just pretty much dominated the series this year. So definitely looking at that in terms of laps led. Yesterday we had 120 for Allgaier, which I did not see coming. Cindric 49, Gragson 27. I see today Cindric being the lap leader. Looking at the guys, I'm just going to go sort here. Sorry if anyone's looking at the sheet for... Actually, I'll do it on the Fantasy Matrix and go by starting position here. So we got Moffitt, Brown, Clement, Sieg, Alfredo, Briscoe, Annette, Haley, Hamrick, and Herbst starting 1 through 10 here. In terms of laps led, out of that group, I would say Briscoe can probably get up front and lead laps first, and then Cindric. I think those two are going to be the guys that are going to lead most of the laps today. Briscoe could up, for GPP, if you think Briscoe's going to get up front and be like the Allgaier of yesterday where he leads 100 plus, putting Briscoe at a 100 laps led here really increases his upside, even though he is 11.6 If he was to win the race, lead 100 plus, he's looking at least 76 points. That is without fast laps. That's just 100 laps sled calculation in there. So I definitely like that. Okay. Kyle Larson back. It sounds like he's coming back. He's applied to come back with NASCAR. So yeah, Thomas, sorry about the audio. I'm just working with my earbuds right now. My main microphone that is pretty darn good ended up breaking down on me, so I'm just waiting on a new one to come through the mail. So I'm just working with this right now. So that's my apologies for the audio using these iPhone mic and headphones. But yeah, we'll jump into the Cup race here. Going and looking at yesterday's race, first of all, laps led leaders from yesterday. We had Ham on 115, Truex had 88, Austin Dillon led 49 laps, Chase Elliott 27, and DeBenedetto 17. I'd personally off DeBenedetto today. I'm not sure what everyone's thoughts are on this whole invert thing. Him, when we go and look at the top 10 here for the Cup race, we have DeBenedetto, Ryan Newman, Ty Dillon, Almirola, Buescher, Austin Dillon, Ryan Blaney, Tyler Reddick, Eric Jones, and Cole Custer. I don't see anyone outside of maybe Ryan Blaney. I know we've seen Almirola lead some laps. I don't think he's going to at this track. I don't see Blaney leading a lot, but out of that group of the top 10 to come out early and maybe lead some laps, I think Blaney can probably get there from 7th within like 10, 15 laps and lead a bunch. We don't have the competition caution today, so that can maybe lead to a few more laps led. Maybe he's in 30 to 50 range in terms of laps led. But again, I think we go back to those top guys for laps led. I don't know. I would put Joe Gibbs cars out front first, like Hamlin and Truex especially. I don't think Kyle Busch is there where he's going to be a dominator yet, so he's definitely going to be off my radar for dominator. His price is sitting at 10K. With that, he is going to be a core play for me. It looks like he's finally coming around. He's got some speed in the car. So it leaves a lot of upside at that price, especially being he's 1,700 cheaper than Harvick. So that just leaves you a lot more upside with him in that. So looking at, yesterday for him with that third place finish, I give him 72 points. So that was 23 fast laps and only 3 laps led. So he did have some fast laps in it. That is the most fast laps he's had in a race since the Superstart Batteries O'Reilly Auto Parts 400 back in July 23rd. So seeing that is really positive for him. And again, the price tag just leaves a bunch of upside. So I will have some Kyle Busch today. I know a lot of people probably going back to, those top guys. I almost think for a, contrarian a little bit, I guess, would just be to build a balanced lineup and just kind of hope that the lap sled kind of goes your way in terms of dominators. And I think a good start is Kyle Busch. I mean, you'd think it's kind of crazy fading Hamlin, Elliott, Truex, and Harvick. You can maybe grab one of those rather than 2 of those, because grabbing 2 of those obviously pushes you into superstars and scrubs and down. Okay, how are we feeling about Clint today with his good run? Yeah, definitely. Bowyer is on my list. He's 7th in my model today at 8,200, 9,700. So he's still under 10K on FanDuel as well. Finished 6th yesterday. I'm going to look at his average run of a top 5. So he was pretty much up front there all day. He's got to be. There's both of them right there. I think he's going to take a little more ownership. Yeah, he's 40 points yesterday, 45 last week. Although that was a road course, so we're just going to throw that out. But looking at his performances here at this track, 6th, 10th, 9th, got in a crash, 2nd, 6th. So 5 of his last 6 are inside the top 10. 3 of those 6th or better, and he is starting 15th today. I think he's got that top 10 again. If he gets up in that 5th, top 5, he's going to be in winning lineups again. So definitely like Bowyer. Kurt Busch stands out as well. He's going to a backup car because of the crash yesterday. But again, before that performance yesterday, before that finish yesterday, he was 9th, 13th, 5th, and 5th at this track. So even though he's going to the back, starting 28th, there's no competition caution to help him kind of gain that little bit off the start. I still think he's pretty much inside that top 15. We need 40 points out of him. So looking at the matrix and Kurt Busch here, we need 40 points out of him. That puts him at a 16th place finish. provided he gets no fast laps or laps led. That's totally doable for Kurt Busch. He's done it here. He's been like, since the return, looking at the cheat sheet. Whoa. Since the return, his average finish is 11.5, 12 top 10s in 19 races, 18 of those inside the top 20. Both of those guys, Kurt Busch maybe a little bit lower because he's going to the back. Some people may go away from that, but I don't see 28th scoring from the 28th starting position being a problem. Bowman I'll go back to, but more GPP. I'm going to have a lot lower exposure to the Chevys outside of Elliott and Johnson. Bowman and Byron are really struggling, especially yesterday. So they're both in my GPP core, but they're not going to be, my top exposure guys. They're going to be like 20%, 20, 25, maybe upwards of 30, depending. Probably more on FanDuel in terms of higher exposure to those two. But Kurt and Boyer in that range, in that kind of mid 7 to mid 8K range. So it'd be, if I had to rank them, I'd go Boyer, Busch, Bowman, Byron in that range. But yeah, not really a whole bunch has to be said about the top guys. If you want to go contrarian, even away from Kyle Busch, who I think takes some ownership, Joey Logano has been solid at this track. He's starting 13th. Jimmy Johnson starting 14th. So they give you a little bit of place differential. They both got top 10, top 5 upside. Logano in his last 4 races here, 8th crash, 7th, 3rd, 13th, 15th before that. Johnson in last performance is even better. 7th, 8th, 14th crash, 9th, 3rd, 1st, 7th in his last 8. So excellent track history for both. Always going to be some crashes for almost everyone looking through the numbers here. Very few guys are consistent and can get through Dover, especially on like a 10 race sample size without having at least one crash in there. So I definitely like those two. You could go Kyle Busch, Logano, and Jimmy if you wanted and kind of build that way. That's super contrarian, getting away from those top guys. Or you can kind of grab one in each zone. You could really start with Hamlin, who's 10-6, jump down and grab Jimmy, and then down and grab Kurt Busch or Boyer. That's a pretty good start to a lineup as well. A little bit more balanced in that. There isn't going to be a bunch of value plays that really stand out today just the way they do the qualifying. Really missing the practice and qualifying myself. I know I talked to a lot of people in chats, and it's kind of the same thing. One thing I do like, not from a DFS perspective, but from a racing perspective, from a race fan perspective, I'm loving the racing with no practice and qualifying. We're seeing a lot more cars involved, although Hamlin and Harvick are winning most of the races. There's a lot more guys that have been competitive for sure. So it's been good in that sense, but from DFS, it's been terrible, especially, like I said, the second end of these races. So if you're playing GPP, getting away from some of the chalk plays, guys that have maybe the same upside, but are going to be lower on just because of maybe their starting position or something like that, playing a little bit that way, or just going with a single entry and not putting a lot in there just because there's going to be a lot of duplicate lineups, in my opinion, today. All right, I'm seeing my wife in the chat here. I'm pretty sure my daughter is sending a bunch of emojis here and spamming my chat. Yeah, she's confirming with the head nod right now. Sorry about that. Okay, I'm going to scroll up. I was kind of going over some stuff. Might have missed some questions. I'm just going to jump back up here. Yeah, Garrett, that Daytona track was interesting. Most interesting was the very first race of the week in the Xfinity race. There's just crash after crash after crash, especially I think it was like turn 13 or something like that, where they were just like jumping over into the gravel and stuff. So it was interesting. I'm not sure if they're going to go back to it again next year for all 3 series, and I hope they do. I love road course racing. One thing I've noticed with the Xfinity, now that I've got into it a lot more in terms of fantasy and putting the stats together and stuff, they just race so much on the road course, and it's just so exciting to watch. Like, those are races that I can really sit down and watch the whole race because there seems to be excitement all the time. But that's just my opinion. I like all racing, but that's definitely something I like. No more emojis, okay? Deal. Okay, so other drivers. Top guys, pretty simple. I've got Hamlin all the way up to Harvick. Those top 4 guys highlighted as core. I'm not highlighting them today to say these are the guys that I'm going to have my exposure to. That's kind of why I wanted to do the show. I just kind of want to show on the sheet the guys that are good plays. And out of those guys, all those top 4 are good plays. Kyle Busch, Logano, Johnson. The 2 that I won't have exposure to today are Brad Keselowski and Ryan Blaney. they are starting 12th for Keselowski and 7th for Blaney. They just haven't been great at this track, and I just like those other guys so much more. Blaney hasn't had a top 10 in his last 4 races, and only 2 top 10s in his last 9, or in his 9 career races here at this track. Keselowski was 9th yesterday, so there is some upside there. I just think these other guys are so much better of a play, so he would be like GPP. Not that I'm fading him if I was doing 20 max or more. I'm only doing, like I said, I think 3 max I'm going to try and do. But he's only got 1 top 10 in his last 4, 3 top 10s in his last 6 races here. So just the consistency, the upside, I guess you could say, just hasn't been there as it has with other guys. So that's why I'm kind of staying away from those two. Then we got Almirola and Jones. Not really looking at them today, starting 4th and 9th. Other guys I'm not looking at today, like I said, DeBenedetto, Newman, Tyler Reddick starting 8th, Ty Dillon starting 3rd, Austin Dillon starting 6th. I don't like Custer starting 10th, Stenhouse starting 11th. Those guys I'm not going to have. I mean, when this happens with these races, with these inverts, that pretty much clears at least 10 to 15 drivers, just wipes them right off the list. So makes it a little bit tough that way, but we just keep chugging along, just keep rocking. So any other questions out there about some guys? I'm just going to talk about a couple value plays that kind of stand out for me today, and then we'll wrap up, go make some lineups, and hopefully see some green screens today. So 6,900, Christopher Bell, lowest price we've seen on him in a while. You're used to seeing him in like that 10K range because of the qualifying, but we're now into the performance qualifying, which is going to bring him down. He's starting 24th. He finished 22nd yesterday in his first race here at Dover. I am just going to jump to, really want to check and see on the Xfinity side of things. And I had this up yesterday, looking at Xfinity races on Dover for the Cup rookies. So I'm just going to bring that up here now. Taking a couple extra clicks here for some reason. The internet's a little bit slow. So we've got Custer. I'm staying away from anyway today. The only rookie I'm really looking at is Bell, starting 24th. 25th in his last race at Dover last year in the Xfinity Series, but the first race he won, and he won the second race in 2018. So he's raced there 4 times in the Xfinity Series, and he went 4th, 1st, 25th. It was a carburetor issue, engine issue in that 25th. So he's been good here. He finished 22nd yesterday in the Cup race in his first trip in the Cup car. Starting 22nd. We're looking for about 35 points out of him. Just going to go and sort the matrix here again. Sorry for anyone that was using that, and I maybe flipped it around on you. 24. So for 35 points out of him, we're looking for about a 17th place finish. That's not far off where he was yesterday. So I'll definitely take that at 6,900. We're going to need some value, guys. No one really super stands out as mega chalk, besides the fact there's only a few of them. But he is definitely one of them that I am keen in on today. Matt Kenseth is another. It's good to see that he's got track history here years ago. 7th, 1st, 5th, 13th, 11th, 20th 2 years ago, 23rd yesterday. So it hasn't been great in that 42 car, but he does have the equipment. He's starting 22nd, and in my opinion, he's got top 15 upside. So at 6,300, I think we got to look at him. Pivoting off with John Hunter Nemechek. He is starting more place differential. This is why he would be a pivot for me, because I think Kenseth obviously's got a lot more experience here. He's the better driver. He's in better equipment. So Nemechek would be the pivot off that, because Kenseth probably is going to see some ownership today. Ryan Preece, 5,600. I think we have to look at. I think he's starting 29th. Yes, he is. So I'll have a look at that as well. He's finished 25th, 19th, 28th. So 25th kind of hit like his norm, kind of like his average finish, I guess you could say. Here at this track, he's got that 20th place upside. We're only looking for about 25 points out of him, somewhere in there. That's a 24th place finish. A 20th place finish would put him in that 33 point range, kind of getting up there into that 6x upside. So those are 3 guys that I'm keen in on as value plays today. Stenhouse, no, I'm off Stenhouse starting 11th. I just don't see it. I guess it would be more of a GPP. I don't see him finishing there again. Give me 2 seconds here. Yeah, starting 11th. I mean, 10th yesterday, that was like his top upside that I really saw out of him, because he's been, a lot of variance here at this track. He's been in a couple wrecks. Average finish the last two is 13, 16.6 over the last 5, 17.4. I just think, finishing 10th again is going to be tough for him. Because again, like I said, that was his peak upside, in my opinion, yesterday. And a 10th only gives him right now 35 points, which would be okay. So if you like him, if you think he's going to finish where he starts at 10th, even 11th, 12th, I think we can get away with. Then yeah, he can be a decent value. I would rather, like I said, go down to Bell, Bell, Kenseth, and Priest, just because the downside to Stenhouse is a ton and the upside is limited where he's starting. So it would be like a cash play only. You're really just kind of looking to get a 10th to 13th place finish for him to hit value. Anything worse than that is terrible. And anything more than that, I just don't see happening. And even at a top 5 is 45 points. And that's only 6x. I don't see a top 5 out of him. But that's just my opinion. Kenseth, yeah, I'm on him just where he's starting with his experience here. He's had results here. He's in better equipment, and he's just super cheap. That's really what it comes down to, and there's just not that many values, so that's kind of the way I'm going. I think Austin Dillon, yeah, Austin Dillon looked good yesterday. Starting 6th, though, not really into it. We need 35 points out of him, so he really needs to finish like 7th, 8th. That's possible, don't get me wrong, but for him to access any kind of upside, you pretty much need some laps led, some fast laps. I mean, he got laps led yesterday, don't get me wrong there. I don't see it happening from the 6th position. I don't like it as much. Again, like Ricky, Austin, and Stenhouse, definitely in play, mostly because there is a limited amount of value plays. But in my limited lineups, I'm probably going 2 stars and scrubs, pretty deep stars and scrubs, and then the third one I'm probably going to go a little bit more balanced. Bubba for place differential, not starting 26th. We need 30 points out of him. That's a 20th. So we need at least a 20th out of him. Just going to go back over here, just look real quick. Yeah, he's finished 20th once here. That was last year in race number 2. 27th, 20th, 27th, 23rd, 25th. So I kind of see him as like a 25th place car. And that's 20 points. 20 points at 6K is just not enough for me when you can go down to Priest, and 20 points for him. We only need like a 27th. So I just like Priest a little bit more. But again, if you're building 20 max, 50, 100, 150 lineups, you're going to need more value plays because you're not going to want 40, 50, 60% of Ryan Priest, Matt Kenseth, and Christopher Bell. So yeah, in terms of liking them, they're not on my radar just because I'm only playing 3 lineups like I talked about. But if you're expanding that and going 20, 50, 100, those are the guys that I would definitely include is Stenhouse and Dillon, obviously, especially Dillon over Stenhouse, just because we've seen the performance out of him, not just yesterday. We've seen it lately that he's shown he can be a top 10 car, like consistent top 15 car. He's kind of improved every year. Like he's been in the playoffs kind of with those wins. He's won some big races. So it would be Dillon and Stenhouse. And then Nemechek would be kind of a pivot like I talked about. You could go Bubba, I guess. He would be last on that list, like 6th or 7th in terms of rankings of my value plays down there. Totally fine with Kurt Busch in a backup car. I mean, that's a good team. It'll be just fine backup car. Like these teams are running backup cars. They're 1 and 1A, or 1A and 1B. I mean, in terms of the car, they'll have the setup in there. He's good at the track. He's starting 28th. I don't even think it takes him to the end of stage 1 before he's like inside the top 20, pushing top 15. So I'm not concerned about it at all. 311 laps, 2 stage breaks. It does hurt a little bit that there isn't the competition caution after like 20 laps or whatever to kind of give them that little bit to get in the and beat some guys out in terms of their pit road times and stuff and gain a few spots there. But he's got a better car than the guys that are starting in front of him. Quite a few guys that are starting in front of him. So I think he can move up quite fast. I'm not concerned at all with Kurt Busch. Besides maybe getting caught in another wreck, but to be honest, like I said earlier, almost anyone can get caught up in a wreck here at the Monster Mile. Seen towards the end of the race yesterday, I was watching with a buddy. There was I think we've turned it on like 23 laps left by the time we got into the race when Truex and Hamlin were fighting for the lead at the end. Hamlin finally got around him. Truex was so loose, just pushing it right to the edge. And I mean, with that the steep banking, narrow track, 1 mile, there's going to be some accidents. So I mean, anyone can get in an accident. So I'm not just looking to a guy that was in an accident yesterday. So long-winded, yes, I'm still on Kurt Busch. Probably one of my core plays. We're going to need some guys in that mid-range. I think he still sees some ownership, even going to a backup car. So for GPP, if you're looking to go on a contrarian lineup, go back to Alex Bowman. He's going to be lower owned than he was yesterday. Starting 21st, he's definitely got upside. He's got top 10s in both races here last year. Bounced back after a terrible rookie year in that 88 car. I think he was, I'm just going to jump up here. Yeah, 23rd and 28th. So not terrible in his first 2 races at Dover in a cup car. But then he went 2nd and 3rd. Podium finishes in both races last year. 21st yesterday, struggled. So definitely on that in that range. And then Bowyer would be my favorite, like I talked about before. Favorite hockey team? Right up here. Philadelphia Flyers. Always, well, when I was young, I was an Edmonton Oilers fan. Me and Dad were pretty much Gretzky fans until I was like, I don't know, until he got traded to LA. Then we kind of parted ways. He became a Leafs fan, and I became a Flyers fan. I had a cousin who was diehard Flyers fan, and he was like 6 years older than me. So when I was like 8 to 10 years old, he was like everything. I just wanted to do everything he did. So that's where the Flyers fandom came from. Just always stuck there. So yeah, go round 2. Take down those Islanders. I know there's probably I know a lot of my chatters are from New York, so I'm probably we can banter back and forth for the next couple of weeks. It's great. I hope it's Flyers, and I don't know who I'm coming out of the West. Let's go with Vegas. Byron will have a better race. I do. I talked about Byron being a nice GPP play starting 23rd. Not a high exposure like I talked about with Bowman and Byron are going to be lower exposure in terms of that mid 7K to mid 8K on DraftKings. Just because, I mean, the troubles he had yesterday, he has here in the past 28th, 13th, 8th, 19th, 14th. He's had success here. So I definitely like that. Yeah, Pens are my arch rivals. I said it before this whole playoff thing started and they announced about the draft pick, how the lottery was going to work. I said, you watch, the Penguins are going to lose out in the first round and they're going to get the first overall pick, Lafreniere. Of course, they did lose out, and I sat there and sweated watching. The Rangers ended up getting it, but I'm just glad the Penguins didn't. Sorry about that, boys. I know you've got more cups. I get it. Crosby's the best player on earth. He was my favorite player, one of my favorite players, up until the Penguins drafted him, and now I respect it. I always respect these guys, but on my arch rival team, I can't really be a true fan of Sidney Crosby, if you know what I mean. Oh, Penguins would be deadly if they had Lafreniere. That would just be insane. They've already got a really good team. Oh, Islanders. I'm really worried about the Islanders, to be honest. Back to NASCAR here. Sorry about that, everyone who isn't a hockey fan. I could sit here and talk about hockey all day. Canadian, eh? Byron, yeah, I definitely like. I think like I said, it's risky. They struggled a lot, finishing 28th, but the upside is there if he does come out and have a better race. Super contrarian, you want to go with the Chevys, Bowman and Byron there. You're going to get off of Kurt Busch and Bowyer. That's one way to lower your ownership today. So yeah, definitely with Byron. So that's pretty much all the plays, unless anyone else has any questions about some drivers. Like I said, for anyone that wasn't here earlier on, or even a few minutes ago, I'm going 3 max. I'm running 2 stars and scrubs. The third one will be like a contrarian balanced lineup with probably Byron and Bowman. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to go with both of them together. That's putting a lot of risk out there, but definitely one way I'm looking at it. Oh, Suarez versus Lejoy. That makes me sick to my stomach a little bit, I looked at them this morning. Suarez starting 31st. I guess he's got more upside, but again, same story every week. His course or track history comes from being in better equipment, like in the Joe Gibbs cars. Lejoy, he's just been consistent. 4 straight top 30s at this track, starting 30th. It would be Lejoy over Suarez for me. I'm going there. Suarez is one guy that proved that good equipment can definitely make a average. I'll call him an average driver. He did win an Xfinity Series championship. He was good there, but in the Cup Series, he's a little out of his element. It makes an average driver or below average driver average, and average driver, I don't want to say good, but above average makes a good driver great. We see this in Almirola too. He jumped from a bad ride to a pretty good ride with SHR. He's a top 10 driver now. So it's same with Suarez. He jumped from Joe Gibbs down to a lesser team here, and he just hasn't really performed. So he always stands out in the models, and that's just simply because of the track history aspect, which is in another car, another ride, another manufacturer. Or sorry, not another manufacturer. He was in the Toyota there with Joe Gibbs, but just another car that's definitely nowhere near the funding. So long-winded again, Lejoy over Suarez. Top 2 cash plays. Well, the top 4 all start in 16th to 20th. Makes sense. You're not going to be able to go that way. So in my opinion, you take the lowest price guy if you're playing cash. He also happens to have the most upside in terms of place differential. So Denny Hamlin's got to be there for me. That would be one. And then I would probably jump down and look at either Clint Boyer starting 15th, how good he ran yesterday, average run position, the little bit of place differential upside he gives you, the track history. It all kind of comes together for him, and at 8,200, I think that makes sense. So those two probably for cash, I guess, if you're going that route. But you could make a case for Truex, Harvick, Elliott. I don't think Kyle Busch is quite there yet, even though he's starting 18th. Number 18 starting 18th. I don't know if that means anything. It does to me. Love Kyle. He's finally going to get his win today. Number 18. But again, that's just me dreaming. He's been pretty terrible. Kevin Harvick's probably going to win again today. Or Denny Hamlin. But yeah, for cash, it's Hamlin and Clint Boyer. Someone asked about Jimmy Johnson. Yes, definitely like Jimmy here. He is another driver that, he can kind of be compared to Kyle Busch in that they are maybe not getting the finishes compared to some of their average running position during some of these races. Jimmy's definitely on my radar starting 14th. Him and Logano, I talked about them earlier. If you want to go away and be contrarian, like I talked about with one of my 3 in my 3 max, if I was doing 20 max, I'd probably run 5 contrarian lineups, 25% contrarian. And to do that, like I said, you can fade one or all of those top 4, Hamlin, Elliott, Truex, Harvick. And Logano and Johnson are a great start for me. They give you a little bit of place differential. They've both been consistent top 10 drivers at this track. Jimmy won here 7 races ago, so I don't mind that either. So that's kind of one way you can go. So Logano and Johnson kind of in that sub 10K range, in that 9K range. Those are my 2 favorite in the 9K range. Yeah, Joey just kind of goes under the radar. He's just kind of been blah. It seems like since the return, everyone else looking at average finish since the return, he's 14.5 average finish. Like that's just not him. He's a championship driver. Average run position though, 15.6 is actually 4th best out of everyone. So he's been consistent. He just hasn't really shown that upside yet. No wins, only 3 top 5s in those. What are we? I can't believe we're 19 races. 19 races since racing came back from the whole pandemic break here. But yeah, only 3 top 5s for Joey in those 19 races. Just hasn't seen the upside of some of these other guys, but I love the price for Joey and Jimmy. If you want Jimmy, especially on FanDuel at only 9,400, I will take that. If you're looking at cash for FanDuel, Jimmy Johnson's on my radar. 9,400 is just too cheap. That just seems way underpriced. For the little bit of place differential upside and consistency that he's starting to show. Bubba, Nemechek, and Priest. Okay, so I would rank those. Tough questions, Steve. Tough questions. Okay, so because he's cheaper, because of the $500 discount, I'm going to go Priest, and then Nemechek, and then Bubba. That's the way I'm going to rank those 3. And Priest and Nemechek, there's a gap. It's close between Priest and Nemechek. There's a little bit of a gap down to Bubba. That's the way I got that. All right, that pretty much caps it off. I'm going to go make some lineups here. Got skeletons coming for Roto Pros as well as my Patreon Slack chat. If you got questions, definitely hit me up. Like I said, Roto Pros Slack chat, DFSR chat, Twitter at Jaeger_bombs9 in the comments below, or in my Patreon Slack chat as well. I'll be in there right up until lock. We got a 4:15 lock for the Cup race. We got lots of time to build lineups. I believe we're getting close to lock for the Xfinity race here, so get your lineups in. I haven't even looked at Indy, so I have 0 picks for Indy. Running all these other sports and sheets, looking at the PGA, MLB, NBA, NHL, 2 NASCAR races today. I am pretty much off the grid, other for anything other than that. So green screens today, yeah, for sure. Thanks for joining. Good turnout here again. Obviously, like I said, if you got questions, hit me up. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I got a lot more videos coming out. Finally getting things settled down in terms of MLB content and stuff like that and updating the sheets. So going to be getting to some more videos in other sports as well, not just the NASCAR race on Sunday. Next week, we'll be back again for the NASCAR show on Sunday. I have to check the schedule. I don't have it right in front of me to see exactly what's happening. If there's an Xfinity race Saturday, I might jump into that and do a show over on Sportscaster for that. Thanks a lot. Curling pick. I'm going to go with my daughter. She's pretty awesome at curling. She is my pick to win. All right. Thanks a lot, everyone.